Okay, well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Excellence Journeys, where I get to share with you some amazing speakers from their journeys of excellence and a lot of lessons that we can learn from as well. There's been triumphs, it's also some challenges that we can talk about, but today I have the very good pleasure of introducing my amigo, Frank Carbajal. He is the founder of the Silicon Valley Latino Leadership Summit. I've been a member of that now for several years, doing a fantastic job. I love every time that I go check him out and his team. But anyway, Frank, welcome.
Well, thank you all, and thank you to all of your listeners and the folks, taking the time on this day to really listen in. I'm really excited to be here, and thank you for your attendance for the past summits. Making it from the East Coast to the West Coast is
Mhm.
always uh, about collaboration, and it's
Yes.
about bringing everybody together on a full day of a great uh, engaging summit. I appreciate you, and I'm very grateful to be here today.
Oh, I love going there. And you're right. I go from the tip of the country all the way to the other side to Silicon Valley, but
Wow.
I'm in Florida. But I don't think I was the one that traveled the most. There was some international attendees, I believe, last time, right? So now you're
Yes,
international,
yes,
my friend.
yes. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Griselda. And I attribute part of the international piece to the fact that I was very fortunate to have, just like yourself, you
Mhm.
being an author, having my first book translated in
Yes.
14 Latin American countries. And I
Wow.
think yeah, thank you. And when what that allows, especially for our Latino community, is it's important to grow your network. And
Yeah.
how you grow your network is really based on, the true authenticity of who we are as people. And collectively, we have, if we counted, 33 Latin American countries
Yes.
and several different versions of culture. It's important that we collaborate, and so with the summit itself, it did bring some folks from regions from Chile and other parts of Mexico to the Silicon Valley.
Absolutely. And about that amazing book, LatinX Business Success. So this
Thank
is
you.
definitely a bestseller. And I didn't know it was in 14 languages. Wow. Impressive.
Well, that book isn't, but the first book, you have to get my
Okay.
first book. The first book is titled "Building the Latino Future: Success Stories for the Next Generation."
I don't
Yeah,
have that one yet, but I will take care of that today.
it's on Amazon. Yeah, it's on Amazon. And
Perfect.
yeah, at the end of our discussion and conversation, I definitely want to take a picture of both the books, and so that your
Yeah.
your book is there as well. And so yeah, so the first book was published in 2008. Same publisher, Wiley,
Hmm.
and Wiley is a publisher that is based out of New York, New Jersey,
Okay.
Hoboken, and I think that it's important that we share our stories, and that's why I'm very honored today to have this conversation, to share my personal story, and also engage in your success and what you're doing
Hmm.
as far as a host of this
Hmm.
great podcast, and I appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But so let's go ahead and start with content in the books, right? And so you told us you wanted to inspire others, right?
Right,
And really
right.
to give us a reality check is what I gathered, right? But can you tell us a little bit about what motivated you to write? Let's say the first one. Stay on that one first,
Sure,
right?
sure.
Building the Latino future. Is that what you said?
Success stories for the
Success
next
stories.
generation. Yeah.
Perfect.
Success stories for
So
the
so
next
what
generation.
inspired you? Like what says, you know what, I gotta put this in writing for all of my audience to really grab it and get the messaging. What was the messaging and what inspired you to go take that on?
I love the question, and actually, this is the first time I've been asked a question in this form, because it really is about the detail of the question of what you ask. What inspired me and how it really inspired me was based on the fact that in 2001, uh, I was really grappling and working with the idea of starting my own business.
Okay.
And during that time in 2001, I worked for the government and in a job that, as many of us as Latinos, are first generation graduates from college and
Mm-hmm.
first generation professionals.
Yes.
And so in 2001, I thought of the idea of how do I build my network, right? If I want to start a business, how do I build my network? And so
Mm-hmm.
I did a search and I found an organization that had a local chapter.
Okay.
Back then it was known as the National Society of Hispanic MBAs, and today it's known as Prospanica.
I
You know
know
of it?
that one, of course. I
Oh,
can't
that's
believe I didn't
awesome.
see you at those conferences, but
Oh
Nashimba.
yeah. December, there you go.
Nashimba.
Okay.
I
You
know
know it
it well.
exactly. And so
Yes.
yeah, the annual trainings were in Dallas, and a dear friend of mine who I consider a mentor is one of the co-founders of Nishimba. His name's Victor Arias.
I know
Victor
Victor
Arias would be great
Arias.
on your show. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, he would be great on your show. And
Mm-hmm.
so what happened, Griselda, was in 2002, I signed up as a member for Nishimba because I have a master's in emphasis in human resources management. So I
Mm-hmm.
felt that I qualified as an MBA to be a
Mm-hmm.
member.
Yes.
And so from 2002 to 2003, I became what they call an education chapter leader,
Leader, yes.
officer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the education officer. And so my job was to identify speakers and folks around my area to be part of their conference, their local
Mm-hmm.
conference
Yes. Uh-huh.
For Nishimba. And it was one afternoon, I was at a conference and I was looking around and I noticed something. And what I noticed was there's something missing. And
Mm-hmm.
what I noticed that was missing was exactly what inspired you to write your book. I said, "There's a book missing, a tangible, a tangible. Oh, this is a great book,
Frida
Frida.
Kahlo. Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. So I said, there's something missing, a tangible item where you could pick up, leave this room, read about
Yes.
these great storytellers,
Right.
because there's nothing more powerful than storytelling." And I said, well, there's no book that we could leave this conference with. So at that moment, it was about 2003, I
Mm-hmm.
decided that, hey, I want to write a book. And sitting to the right side of me was this gentleman by the name of Dick Gonzalez, who became like
Okay.
an executive mentor. He was
Okay.
executive at Safeway North America, the third in command in the C-suite level.
Mm-hmm.
And then to the left of me is a gentleman by the name of Roberto Medrano. He was at the summit that you attended, and
Okay.
he is a C-suite leader in terms of technology. He was a
Okay.
technology leader. He's become now an investor, an angel investor. He has
Yes.
his own tech company, and he's a person that I thought, wow, these two gentlemen, it's no coincidence. It's God telling me, you got to write this book. Here you
Why
are
not?
sitting between these two leaders. And I looked at him at that time and I said, hey, how would you feel about being in my book? And they said, oh, you're writing a book. I said, well, yeah, I'm thinking about it. Like,
I
well,
am
you got to
now.
start. I am now. And so when I get home, let my wife, you met my wife, Molly. I
Yes.
said, "Hi, I'm going to write a book." She's like, who's going to write it for you? She's like, oh, because Molly's a great writer. And I
Uh-huh.
said, well, I have the contacts, and would you be supportive? Because,
Yes.
it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot
Oh
of
my goodness.
discipline,
It takes a lot of hours, a lot of
a lot
editing.
of hours, a lot of
Yes.
hours. And so my wife really, for the first book, became more of the editor before the editor through Wiley.
Okay.
And the process started in 2003. And with that, I collectively interviewed folks from these two gentlemen that I mentioned, to Edward James Olmos, to Cheech Marin, to Governor Bill Richardson, who passed away a couple of years ago, to
Yes.
Henry Cisneros from Texas,
From
a
Texas? Yes.
superstar, to many folks that run not only small companies to mid-sized companies, but also organization nonprofits. So it really covered all industries. But the intent and the purpose of building the Latino future was to continue to inspire future leaders,
Yes.
leaders of today, our youth of
Hmm.
today. And so I was very fortunate that in 2007, a guru by the name of Ken Blanchard, who wrote the One Minute Manager,
I know
one of
Kim
the
Blanchard. A lot of us read that
yeah,
one.
and one of the top thought leaders of all time in the
Mm-hmm.
20th and 21st century, they signed me on as one of their authors and was my acting agent. So I really was at the right place at the right time when they said yes. We'll have
Mm-hmm.
Frank co-author with at the time Kim Blanchard's son-in-law Humberto
Okay.
Medina. And so in 2008, Wiley picked up the book and this is the thing about the summit. So in 2009, as we know, the market crash, with
Yeah.
the housing crisis and things that happened to make you pivot.
Yes.
I met with a gentleman, Dick Gonzalez, who was sitting to the right of me that I mentioned just a few minutes ago,
Mm-hmm.
and asked him what was his suggestion as far as continuing the momentum of my recent published first book.
Yes.
And and he said, "Hey Frank, as we know, Jeff Bezos is swallowing up all the border books and some of the Barnes and Noble, and a lot of stuff is going through Amazon. Why don't you have a leadership summit where people who attend your leadership summit could be inspired to actually purchase your book?" Because then it was known as millennials, right? And
Oh yeah.
the millennials would be excited. And
Right.
so with the first support and the believer of Dick Gonzalez and a woman by the name of Miriam Rivera, who's a venture capitalist, being the first panelist for the first summit. The summit was born in 2010. And so
Ah.
the book and the summit is really how the platform came together.
Very cool. And all those powerful voices, I mean, yourself included, right? All of that
Oh, thank
unity
you.
coming together to really share the story, to share the
Yes.
Latino story, because there's so much wealth of experiences, information, and we're growing, right? It's one thing I know about Latinos, right? We know how to multiply. And it's
Yeah.
a population that carries on the GDP for tremendous growth potential in the next 5 to 10 years, right?
One of the things exactly, Lisa, like, one of the powerful things I give it to a Latina leader who pointed this out, and she says that when folks try to defeat us, one thing that we have to remind folks of is we're like seeds of growth. We
Yeah.
continue to grow, and you can try, but we're continuing to grow in
Yes.
all areas. But one of the things that I'm doing here with you today is
Mm-hmm.
to remind folks of our power. And our power collectively is through, you hit the key word, through unity.
Yes.
And unity is actually the title of the first book that I have is Building the Latino Future.
Future.
And so future is the leadership framework that was created for the book. And the second element is unity. So the second chapter of Building the Latino Future is based on unity. And that was in 2008. And today in 2025, we need more unity than ever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A lot has happened, transpired right over the last 15, 20 years. And
Yeah.
yes, it's a united front. And in my book, I write it as well, right? We're so much stronger together. And so we need to come together and support and lift each other up, right? And that's something
Yes.
that sometimes it's not quite there, right? We need to really bond and come together and support and lift each other up. But now in the leadership summit, that is the messaging that I get out of that, right? How do we
Yeah.
come together in business, entrepreneurial ideas? How do we help
Yes.
promote each other? How do we help, gain the success and really make sure that everyone's thriving? It's not just about one or two, it's like angel investing and businesses prospering. Tell us
Yes.
more
Yes.
about the summit, and obviously you started that back in 2010, but what thrills you about it? What's the most important aspect of your messaging at the summits?
Well, the thing about 2010 is I have to mention that the first summit, you're gonna love this part of it. The first summit in 2010 was based at this place called the Quadrants Conference Center on Sand Hill Road. And for folks who are listening, Sand Hill Road is known as the venture capital mecca
It is.
of the world, of the world.
World.
And so of the world, yeah. So it's right in Palo Alto Menlo Park. It's nestled in to where it's the wealthiest capital exiting of any type of uh, investment in startup history. So it all started there,
Yeah.
on Sand Hill Road. And back in the early 80s, I have to mention that God rest the soul of my parents. They're right there behind me.
Oh,
Uh,
there.
yeah, they're on the bottom area. And
Mm-hmm.
that's my family, my wife and my kids. But
Uh-huh.
my dad would take me to work with him as a janitor to keep me out of trouble, to keep me focused, to make sure that education was the focal point of my life. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the places that he took me to was Sand Hill Road to clean offices of the
Mm-hmm.
janitors there
Yes.
on
Mm-hmm.
Sand Hill Road. And fast forwarding to 2010, the first summit took place in that same complex on Sand Hill
Oh,
Road.
no way. That is
Yeah,
awesome. Oh my God,
yeah,
what a
yeah. And
fantastic feeling that would have been. But
it,
yes,
it
I know
was,
Sand Hill
yes.
Road. I did many, many runs on Sand Hill Road myself when I was going to
Yeah,
college there. But
yes.
it's a
Yeah, right by
beautiful location.
Stanford there.
Yes.
And, to answer your question about angel investors, venture capital,
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I do see is it's really what I remind colleagues or folks that are in angel investment uh, networks or venture capital is that please let's pay attention to our very talented Latino entrepreneurs that have a product that
Mm-hmm.
it could be scalable and
Yeah.
more importantly, could invest and make sure that there's that strategy where this is an outlier that we're investing in, a person that uh, could definitely make changes. And many of the times, what I've seen, Griselda, are VCs that happen to be Latina or
Yeah.
Latino that have encouraged, you know, startup entrepreneurs. Nothing wrong with nonprofits, but
Mm-hmm.
encourage them to apply for a 501c, create a nonprofit. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, that goes against the grain. That goes
Yeah.
against the purpose of really
Mm-hmm.
creating wealth. And
Mm-hmm.
I share the examples that many of us as Latinas, Latinos grow into or were born into nonprofit worlds,
Yeah.
in our areas of the barrios or communities. And so, as Tiempo, in terms of changing that narrative, is to invest in these
Mm-hmm.
very talented entrepreneurs that happen to be Latino. And so the purpose of the Leadership Summit
Mm-hmm.
is really to not only bring some of the top minds together for an all-day event,
Yeah.
but more importantly is to network with, and you see it yourself
Yeah.
where it's intentional to have networking breaks where it's a big enough size of 300 people where you could spot an individual
Yeah.
and say, I'm going to connect with that person.
Hola.
Hola, and that make
Mm-hmm.
turn that hola into a manifestation of creating some business through building the relationship.
Oh, absolutely. And fantastic job. I mean, I love what I see, every year. And I wasn't able to go back the last year, but I'm going to be there this year. But it's just that
Awesome.
blossoming network, I call it, right? And then there's books, right? So this is where I got my book, and that's where you signed my book too.
Yeah, I
But it's
remember
basically
that.
learning, right? It's about promoting education, business, entrepreneurial ideas. Absolutely amazing. Now, you mentioned something that near and dear to my heart, and I think we have a lot in common. I'm from the southern tip of Texas, in Brownsville, Texas. You told me from El Centro, right? South
Yes, near the
California.
border.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
And
those early beginnings, and you mentioned your father taking you to the maintenance work, right? My mom
yes,
was cleaning hospitals in Brownsville, the same thing, but that was good, hard work and
right,
hard work
right,
ethic,
right.
right? So tell me about those experiences in your early years.
How many miles from the border are you? Where
Uh,
you grew up? Where you grew up?
Where I grew up, I think it's 2 miles.
Wow, that's
I mean,
even
literally,
closer.
there's a border, and we could walk from the border to. It's really my grandmother's house. We didn't have a home, but we lived with my grandmother. My dad was living in Texas, in Brownsville, when he met mom, who was in Matamoros, Tamaulipas. But anyway,
Matamoros,
because
okay.
dad was living with his parents, that's when they got married. They were so young; they were teenagers, right?
Yeah,
So when they
yeah.
got married, that's where we lived. Like literally 2 miles to the bridge, to International Mexican Bridge there.
So I asked because where El Centro is about 25, 30 miles from Mexicali, the border,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm just a little older than you, and being 55, I'm the youngest of five, and so my dad and mom were brought during the Bracero program, and
Mm-hmm.
it was the tail end of the Bracero program. For those who don't know what the Bracero program is, just look at it as a pathway to citizenship. It's a work program
Mm-hmm.
that was for migrant farm workers, and my mom and dad always reminded me that my DNA was made up of spinach and cabbage because
There you
spinach is
go.
what they bring. Yeah. So Popeye, a Mexican Popeye.
Popeye, all the green veggies in you. But yes, I
That's
mean,
right.
there was tremendous
That's right.
work ethic and all the hard work that went on
That's
in the
right.
migrant
That's
farms,
right.
right? It's
That's
really
right.
to be admired. There's a movie on it now. Kevin Costner has a movie on it, and I forget the
Oh,
name of that movie, but
it's yeah. And when you remember, send me it. And
absolutely.
I love watching the movies that are about reflection and understanding the path of the journey. And
Mm-hmm.
the journey for my parents was that in 2000, I'm sorry, in 1972, they were asked to apply for a job in the Santa Clara Valley, now known as Silicon Valley. But Santa Clara Valley was like the Valley of the Hearts because it
Yeah.
was orchards and fruits and everything. And what they
Mm-hmm.
had for work is canneries. And so my parents moved us up in 1972. So I really only had a few years in El Centro, but
Uh-huh.
I bring it up often because that is foundation. That's where I was born, and
Yes.
I think moving to and you've been here in the Silicon Valley a few times, quite a few times.
Yeah,
You
oh,
well, you
many
you
times.
studied out here, right?
I
You
went to
studied
Stanford
out here,
University, so at least four
yeah.
years, but I go back almost every year.
But one thing that you see, and I want to mention this since we have the time of really the description is do you Griselda, when you were at Stanford, did you notice that Stanford University and this is something that I do and present
Mm-hmm.
on and
Okay.
create a mindset.
Yeah.
Did you notice that Stanford University and all the high caliber tech companies, including NVIDIA today, which is gosh, one of the number one, it
Fastest
is the number one
growing high
ranked
tech.
fastest growing company in the world,
Right.
that everything has happens to be west of 101. West of 101. Think about that. So the
Woo.
101 and the infrastructure divide that I like to call it happens to be that every inequities happen to be on the east of 101, East San Jose, East Palo Alto. And so what I really want to push is
Uh-huh.
creating and building an infrastructure on the east of 101. Let's have some tech equitable companies on the east side of 101,
Mm-hmm.
because then these chavalitos and young men and young women have access to be tech leaders after graduating from college, because many of our Latino community reside on the east of 101, which happened to be where I grew up in East San Jose
Yeah.
and East Palo Alto, which is um, the demographics happen to be mostly Latinos today.
Latinos,
Yeah,
absolutely. I used to
yeah, yeah.
tutor in East Palo Alto in that area. And you're right, it's a very big divide. I mean, and you just drive through there and it's very noticeable. But you're right. I mean, Silicon Valley, right? So it's, wealth for all. And now I do see it, migrating a little bit more, but so much more to go. I mean, so much more opportunity to make
Yes,
sure that all that
yes.
technology is really blossoming all the area there, right? Not just in one aspect of it. But absolutely. But now in terms of maintenance work, that's very, awesome work that I pride myself and say, hey, my mom was, in charge of maintenance at that hospital and she did a fantastic job. But it's really stories like that bring it to life, right? We had humble beginnings. Um, and we have our roots and we
Help
never forget
and
our
who
roots.
helps exactly? Who helped you out? Who were some of your mentors?
My mentor, my mom, is definitely one of them. She's in my book as my main mentor. She's the reason I ended
Wow.
up at that university, that I wasn't going. I was scared to go so so far away. I was in Texas going to Texas schools, I thought, until my mom got my Stanford acceptance letter. Goes, Mijita, you're going all the way over there. I go, but I won't see you, mom. He goes, who cares? I'll see you when you
Wow.
come home for the holidays. But anyway, so she's definitely one of my mentors. And then I just had many mentors along the way, right? There's my physics teacher in high school, Greg Garcia is one of them. Bill Scott, my first boss over at Honeywell. So there's a lot of people that I grew, to be confident with and stretched me, put me into some of the most challenging assignments. But I grew up from there. Now, El Centro, tell me about early life in El Centro.
Early life in El Centro was interesting because my parents they didn't they didn't really raise me from the childhood because I ended up growing up in East San Jose. And
Okay.
so for me personally, I was only 3 years old, up to 3 years old in
Mm-hmm.
living in El Centro. Yeah, yeah, but one thing I have done is I've visited, where I grew up in
Yeah.
El Centro near Mexicali. Yes, yes, but more focus on El Centro. My sister, being the youngest of five, my oldest sister was a person that really lived more years in El Centro because my parents originally from Mexico, my mom from Zacatecas and my dad from Jalisco.
Jalisco.
When they moved to El Centro, my oldest sister was she was 9, and then we're all separate by a few years. Actually, my oldest sister's 9 years older than me, but my other siblings are 2 years apart. So
Okay.
they had more experience in El Centro.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But lovely place. I used to work there in Mexicali actually, but I was staying in Calexico. So that whole area is near and dear to my heart. There's a lot of early journeys that I had in my professional career there. Now, so back to some of the, Es Tiempo. You mentioned Es Tiempo, which, by the way, is your LLC, right? That you started in
That's right. That's
combination
right.
when you started the
That's right.
summit. It's time for those of you that don't speak the language, but it is time. Tell me about the name. Tell me about, I know why, because you've explained it to us, but for our audience here, tell us about Es Tiempo y por qué Es Tiempo.
Well, what part do you remember from El Tiempo?
It's time
The
for Latino voices to be heard. I remember that quote.
Okay,
And it's
that's
time
great.
for
That's
us to
good.
really rise together and make things happen, right? Because if we don't, who will?
That's right. Well, you have a good part of it, and what happened was in 2000, again going back in 2001,
Mm-hmm.
I was working in a job where I was more of an entrepreneurial thinking person, and I remember being in the office with a person who happened to be a pastor at the time, and I let him know that I wanted to start a business. And
Mm-hmm.
so he said, "Well, what type of business?" I said, I first want to start it as a sole proprietor and really creating what I called a speakers bureau and
Okay.
bringing speakers together so we could voice who we are and how we represent
Mm-hmm.
our community.
Yes.
He's like, "Oh, that's a great idea." And so at that point, I left that conversation as is, and I
Mm-hmm.
went home and I shared the same thing with my dad. And my dad, my parents were monolingual. They spoke only Spanish and English in the home.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad said, "Pues mijo, ya es tiempo." And I said, "Es
Ah,
tiempo." I
there
said,
you
"Ah,
go.
that's it." Yes. I said, "I love it." And he kind of shrugged and said, "Okay." And I thought, I got to go with Es Tiempo. So there was two names in mind
Okay.
when uh when the business first started. It was Es Tiempo and Isalu. Isalu is our health.
Yes.
And yeah, and so when I went back to the office, I felt really inspired by my colleague who was a pastor who
Okay.
who was very even keel,
Mm-hmm.
and I I ran it by him and I said, I'm thinking of these two names for the sole proprietorship that I was talking to you about. And he's like,
Yeah.
what are the names? And I said, well, the first one's Isalu. And then I said, but one that really is sticking is Es Tiempo. He's like, that's it.
That's it.
Es Tiempo. Go
Mm-hmm.
for it. And
Yes.
so I created as a sole proprietor. And then in 2001, as I'd mentioned, I worked with the government up until my book was published. And my first book being published in 2008, a friend of mine who actually went to Harvard Law School with Barack Obama,
Mm,
his name's
okay.
Clay Deanhart.
Uh-huh.
He uh, he graduated a year after Barack, President Obama, and he says, "Hey Frank, you're going to do a lot of public speaking. You're going to, really have your book as your tool. We should create an LLC for you." So the LLC started in 2008.
Oh, very nice. Well,
Yep.
congratulations. And it's done some
Yeah.
amazing things. You've done some amazing things, obviously, and it's been blossoming.
Well, thank you.
But yeah,
Thank
I
you so
love
much.
following your stories and I love the celebrations of people. I love how you really focus on, look at this Latina leader doing this, look at this Latino doing that. So it's amazing to really put a spotlight on all the great work that happens because a lot of the times it goes unnoticed, right? But I love the fact that you make it a point to highlight all those beautiful stories. So tell me about your vision. What is your vision for the Latino future?
Yeah, going back before answering that question, going back
Okay.
to spotlighting, and I thank you for that. And the purpose is not really never about, as you know, never about me. It's always about lifting our community because we have so many untold stories,
Mm-hmm.
stories of prominent figures that people look up to. But I think one of the things that we have to really also focus on are folks who are behind the scenes that are in our
Yes.
community that are in our community. And one thing I never leave behind, Griselda, is humility, because humility is part of our fabric. And I
Mm-hmm.
say, you know, people are in our community may say, well, you got to be bold, you got to be out there, and you got to be in front and center. Well, I say, well, there's two elements to it. It's
Yeah.
humility and hungry. Be humble, but at the same time, of course, be
Course.
hungry to
Yes.
strive for success, but never forget who you are, where you came from, and at the same time as you're striving for success, lift the person behind you
Yes.
because the person behind you is the person that may be where you were at 20, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, that is just starting out and
Right.
creating a network. Creating a network is a lot of hard work.
Yes.
It does take grit. It does take grind.
Yes.
So I feel that it's important when you spotlight other individuals, not just the ones that are a given story, but the ones
Yes.
that are behind the scenes. It helps that person create and build a network. And
Absolutely.
so for me, most importantly, it's about servant leadership.
Yes.
Servant leadership is really based on uh, doing things for others, not for self. And so, thank you for the question. And now you ask why I do it.
No, your vision for, by the way, on that note, absolutely. And I think, both of us have the same DNA of we do this and our purpose, my passion and purpose in my book is to bring others along, right? So I've been mentored, coached, supported, assisted, helped. And the purpose is so that I can bring others along, right? So I can pass that on and make sure that others are also learning, doing, and sharing their wisdom with the rest of us. But thank you for that. By the way, I have the power of optimism, I call it. And it's really about that, right? It's like, how do we make sure that as we're growing our network, it's for the purpose of making sure that others come along, right? That's the
Right,
whole intent. I know we share that perspective. But your
right.
vision for the Latino future. So, what do you expect to focus on to do? What do you see for Latinos today? And there's so much statistics about the growing GDP caused by Latinos in the US. Globally, but specifically in the US. But what's your vision for the Latino future?
You know, the vision is really about, okay, we have so many different sectors,
Yeah.
whether it's the public or the private sector, different industries that we have individuals in our community are Generation Z that
Mm-hmm.
thrive, whether it's in engineering, whether it's business,
Yeah.
nonprofit, education. So one thing that I know as far as the GDP is we have to embrace all industries and respect all industries, and more importantly, lift individuals, Latinos, Latinas in college and respect their desire to major in a certain focus, certain specialty,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there create more spaces for mentoring, create more build an infrastructure of mentoring that really is going to allow individuals that happen to be Latina, Latino in college that
Mm-hmm.
create this create this pathway. Yes, we talk about a pipeline, but what's missing in terms of the pipeline is the mentoring piece and
Okay.
how we really engage mentors is through discussions like today, through podcasts, identifying the mentoring programs out there. For
Mm-hmm.
example, in community colleges, there are the Puente programs. The Puente
Yeah.
programs are pathways, the Puente
Mm-hmm.
pathways to get to a 4-year college. And once we're at a 4-year college, I am part of a program that's known as the Promise Program for San Jose State. And really, it focuses on kids from the east side of San Jose
Okay.
to get to San Jose State. So
Mm-hmm.
through discussions, we have to really be action oriented to make sure that we piece everything together.
Okay.
And then once our Latinas and Latinos are in the industries, then we have to rely on creating the synergy around executive mentors,
Right.
the leaders within companies, the leaders within organizations to really amplify the roles within Latinas and Latinos in these companies and organizations so that we look at the GDP and the data and match it and make sure it's real time. Because
Yes.
we have slides, but let's not make it about and data. Let's not make it about bragging data or bragging slides. Let's
No.
make it actionable, intentional to really show the faces of today, the success stories of today. And
Yes.
that's why Griselda, I'm so always inspired and motivated. And you were one of the stories
Mm-hmm.
that I spotlighted as a 365 Latina leader
You did. I
with your
remember.
book and with your
Mm-hmm.
story and with your bio and your journey. And when we really amplify that through social media, people could see the proof and they say,
Yeah.
wow, it's not just a slide, it's a person. And so we
Yes.
have to really bring the person behind the scenes, in front of the camera, in front of uh, the image is there so that we could really see actionable GDP at the 3.7 trillion. Let's see, the 63 million of us actually contributing in various ways,
Yes.
not just in ways that people see in America business, but let's really embrace all industries and respect all industries because as we know, it's important that college is the equalizer, but at the same time, what equalizes the playing field is making sure that the mentor is involved in this process.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all had our coaches, our mentors, and it's absolutely critical. But you're right, it's coming together so that we can lift each other up. And now there's a different like Avenida from Fanny, right? Fanny Grande and her
Yep.
husband.
Yep.
There's all these ways of like really bringing things to life, sharing our stories, the books that we're writing, right? It's a lot of, making sure that we're sharing with each other to inspire others. And like you say, it's planting those seeds, right? We're going to definitely move things forward for all of our community, but it's planting seeds so that we're not going to cause the entire, we're going to cause a movement, but there's going to be others, right? Our children and their children that are going to come and pick up on those efforts and continue forward. Absolutely.
That's right. That's right.
So now, so think of all the young minds out there, right? So obviously, I'm Gen X myself. I have, Gen Z, I think, and I think now even they call themselves Gen Alpha for my 12, 13-year-old, my 13-year-old. But
You know,
but But what advice would you give our young minds out there? I mean, obviously you have Es Tiempo and you're bringing a lot of entrepreneurial minds together and business people, production media people. Tell us about what advice you would have for our young minds, our college grads or recent college grads that are out there.
I would say, please, don't rely on just social media. Uh, visit, take the time to visit your Barnes and Noble, read stories that like Griselda's book,
Mhm.
and really take the time to support um, the the traditional way of challenging your mind is through research. And what I say by research is in a meaningful way. Like
Mm-hmm.
let's look at our um, our current climate in terms of chat GDP and artificial intelligence. This is great, but let's not forget ways of disciplining your mind through the research that takes time. And
Yes.
what I mean by that is the advice I provide to folks is challenging your mind is really the way through hard work, through grit, but at the end of the day, it's so rewarding because you feel gratified that you took the time to work really hard. And
Yes.
there was a saying that, are you lucky because you have a job? Are you lucky because you started a business? Well, as you had mentioned with your mom,
Mm-hmm.
and I had mentioned with my parents, success is funneled through hard work, and hard work really is part of the process. And so
Yes.
for the young folks listening, it really takes a lot of time to get things done. But I tell you, at the very end, you're going to be so gratified and so grateful that you did that.
Absolutely. It's about
That's
perseverance
the
and resilience, right? Because there are challenges, there are bumps on the road, but I
yes,
think they're needed, right? Because we learn from those. We learn to say,
yes,
hey, what did I learn from that mistake? Or what did I learn from that, flop that I just had? But you get up and you move on and keep pressing forward. But
that's right.
absolutely. Well, thank you for those words of
That's
advice.
right.
So
No,
we're gonna
thank
bring our
you.
books out, but anything
Let's
else that
do
you
it.
would
Let's
like to
take a break.
share with the audience?
I just wanted to share that everyone, like I had mentioned, please listen to these podcasts and listen to uh, uh, the nuggets that folks provide because it really is helpful for all of us during this time to really let that process and utilize some of these tips for your own use. That's all I'd like to add.
Well, thank you very much for those words of wisdom, Frank. So I have
Thank
your
you.
book here. Did you want me to grab my other one or?
Yeah, yeah. Grab your book. Yeah, yeah. Could you?
All right.
Could you go? Wait, I have my Yeah, yeah. If you don't mind, that's awesome. I'll take the
Right
picture.
back here.
How long? I wanted to ask you, how long did it take you to write your book?
Interesting story. And I think I'm unique in this, and there's a reason why. But to write it, and I did write it myself, 12 weeks. But
Wow.
I'll tell you why. And yeah, thank you for the wow. My doctor said I had to have surgery on my right arm, rotator cuff.
Right.
So
Right.
you're in a
Right.
sling for 3 months. I am the type that I had to be on the go, doing things, working in manufacturing environments. So for me to be in a sling for 3 months, I had to do something. So Google and I would talk every day, Frank. So I dictated my
Wow.
book to my computer for the time that I was in a sling because I couldn't even type. I couldn't do anything. So,
You know when I shared it, I was so excited to share it because it was just so um powerful
mhm,
of where we're at today and
yes.
you had mentioned the resilience and the tenacity and the barriers,
Mhm.
but we can't let that get in our way, and that's part of the process of becoming leaders of what I had mentioned. Servant leadership is something that is the most rewarding because you're doing it for
Yes.
others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
So those are the two. And that's the
Okay.
one that hold on, let's see if I can do a better job for you. Oh, you're gonna take a picture of me now.
Yeah, of course. Ready? Because yeah, here we go. One,
All right, I'm
two,
ready.
one more. Awesome.
There you go. But
Yes.
yes, I
Yeah,
love sharing the stories because you're right. It's about coming together and making sure that we're all challenging each other, right? Because, like you say,
that's right.
it is not
That's
easy.
right.
Whoever thinks that starting a business, whether it's Es Tiempo or the summit or my consulting and coaching, is not easy. You're
That's right.
gonna pay with it with either time or money and a lot of time and a lot of sleepless nights. But when that baby grows and you're helping other people and you're helping them set up their LLCs or advance their business, like Frank mentioned, it is so gratifying. Mhm.
Yes, it is. And you all just really know that, as Grisela had mentioned, that we're here to answer any questions. If you have a message that you'd like to send us directly, then,
Yes.
I'm always open for that.
And how do we get a hold of Frank? So how do we contact you? You want to share an email or a
Okay.
website?
So, so as you have my name, Frank Carbajal, Carbajal, on LinkedIn, or if you send me an email through my business email is frank at estiempo.com. Frank at estiempo.com.
Perfect. Well, Frank,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for sharing some insightful tidbits and golden nuggets for us to ponder and make use. So appreciate the time and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you all. Thank you all. And I appreciate you all. And this was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
All right. Es tiempo, my friend.
Es tiempo. Thank you.
Hasta
Bye.
luego.
Hasta luego.